as a Nigerian, as an African, as a black person, do you sometimes get overwhelmed by the sheer reality in which we have to live? If you live in Nigeria, the lack of amenities, the lack of healthcare, the lack of accountability, the total chaos that the country is in is frustrating. The value of naira, the price of food, the price of accommodation, the level of crime. And if you're overwhelmed by all of this and you see the state of the country, it can get very overwhelming. But we also cannot escape it, because that's our reality. That's who we are. We are Nigerians. And so you might think that you're caught between a rock and a hard place. What can you do? I've realized that I cannot control Tinubu. I cannot control the Senate. I don't have access to, I'm not in the room where those big decisions are being made. I cannot control the next election. But what I can control is how I behave. And this for me gave me so much peace, just thinking about what is within my circle of influence. I can control my future kids, the way I bring them up. I can control how I decide to behave as a Nigerian. Most of us live within the circle of concern. Whereas what we should really focus on is our circle of influence. Our circle of concern is really big. And as a Nigerian, of course, it's really big. It's healthcare, it's education, it's infrastructure, it's employment, it's health, it's amenities. Everywhere you look, there is a problem. So our circle of concern is massive, but our circle of influence is so small. And when you have such a huge disparity between your circle of influence and your circle of concern, it leads to frustration. You see the problem, but you feel like a victim of a situation. You feel like you cannot solve it. You do not have the agency and all the solution to actually create positive impact, positive change. Well, I'm here to tell you, our job is to look within our circle of influence. This is where the control is. For you guys who are teachers, you can control the student in your class. That's your circle of influence. For parents out there, your kids, it could be your neighbors. If you're in charge of looking after children, your pastor, or the big brother, big sister in the neighborhood, that is your circle of influence. And sometimes your circle of influence is yourself, and that's fine. That is what you can control. Your circle of influence are things that you can actually change. And for all of us, the first thing that we can change is how we behave, how we react. How do we behave as an employee? How do we behave as a parent? How do we behave as a worker? How do we behave in our societies? How do we behave as a taxpayer, as a road user, as a doctor, as a lawyer? How do we behave when we're in charge of our neighbor's goods? How do we behave in public transport? How do we behave when we're using the road? Do we follow the rules? Do we not follow the rules? How do we behave when we get employed into a role? Do we blag our way in? Do we promise to do our jobs and then we call off sick? We don't turn up on time. We do the least possible. Do we steal from our employers? Have you asked yourself why there's such a huge gap in employment? But then there are a lot of business owners who complain about lack of trustworthiness in their workers. Why there's such a plethora of churches and mosques and religious people, but the country is full of people who cannot be trusted. Everyone wants to scam you. Everyone wants to take something off of you. I've done businesses in Nigeria. I've worked with people, and you realize that the people are the problem. We, the people, are the problem. There is a philosophy about how countries change. Is it through the institution or through the individual? I'm an avid believer that it's through the individuals, because our leaders are made from the people. The people make the leaders. So the leaders are literally a mirror of who the people are. So this channel is not about politics, not about complaints. It's about building a community of Nigerians who are dedicated to being the Nigeria they want to see in their daily actions. We cannot control what Tinubu does. We cannot control what's happening in the country. We cannot control what other people do, but we can decide that we are going to do better. And in our ones, in our tens, in our hundreds, in our thousands and 10,000s and 1 million, we can create change. That for me is my hope for this channel, that we can come here and talk about our agency and how we can do our part. We're holding ourselves accountable. We're holding ourselves to a higher standard, to live honestly, to live truthfully, to do the best that we can. Also, that is what is within our circle of influence. We can all go out to the next election and vote, but we know that most times the result from that does not reflect reality. And so I want us to focus on the circle of influence, not because on our circle of influence, not because we do not care about the bigger picture, not because we do not care about the politics or what happens in Senate or the laws that are being passed and the policies that are being passed, but because we know the small decisions that we make impact the big picture. It also takes away the pressure. It takes away the feeling of chaos, of lack of control. It takes away the feeling of being a victim. If you're here, you're not here by accident. Please like, please subscribe, please follow on the journey. Drop a comment on things that you'd like us to talk about. Because every week we're going to be talking about things that are actually in our hands, things that we can change. things that we can do better. And we're going to come here as a community to hold ourselves accountable. I believe that this can be a movement for a better tomorrow, a better Nigeria. And I love the play on words as well, because we're beta. We are the operating system that can be updated for the future of Nigeria. We are the today, but we know that we are working towards a better Nigeria. The Nigeria that you and I deserve, the Nigeria that our children and their children deserve. And so thank you for joining me on this journey, and see you next week.